Welcome back. We're joined once again by the editorial page editor for the South Florida Sun Sentinel, Steve Bousquet, and the political editor for the Miami Herald, David Smiley. Gentlemen, you were both in the studio listening to State Representative Alex Rizzo express confidence with regard to both amendments likely to fail. Let's sort of pick it up there with the amendments. But let me phrase the question this way: with Harris now at the top of the ticket, what impact does that have, you think, on the two constitutional amendments, the one for abortion and the one for marijuana? Steve? Yeah,
of course it's somewhat speculative, but it certainly increases the likelihood that more women are going to be voting because more women are energized by Harris being at the top of the ticket. That tends to make you think that the Amendment 4 would be helped by that fact.
But you're still skeptical. You're still not sure that it's going to get to the 60%. It's a high standard, 60%.
Yeah, I am a little skeptical because even though the polls do show, 20% or so undecided, you need on an amendment like this that's highly controversial, you need to have a head of steam built up because you've got to anticipate a well-coordinated opposition campaign. We're getting a lot of mail at my newspaper from the Conference of Catholic Bishops, from people in the medical community in South Florida who think that Amendment 4 is too extreme. I realize also a positive campaign to pass the amendment really hasn't reached full gear yet either. There's going to be a tremendous amount of focus on the presidential race here and every place else in the country. And so I still think the proponents have some work to do to get this thing passed.
David, on abortion?
Yeah, the proponents have wanted to keep the issue from being partisan and being wrapped up in Democrat versus Republican because they want Republicans to vote for the amendment as well. So I do wonder if having Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket does give critics a face to put on the amendment, and whether that might be a problem for it. I also do think that the campaign against the amendment could be effective because it does open up. It leaves it to a mother and the doctor, and there's a lot of ways to attack that. So I do think it's 60% is a really high benchmark.
It's interesting because I do think even nationally, how women vote in this upcoming election. And by the way, just on Republicans and the rest, we did a CBS News poll about a month and a half ago, which was when Biden was in the race still, and it showed not just Trump winning, obviously, the state of Florida, but it showed that there were a lot of Trump voters who are going to vote for Amendment 4 as well. There is that crossover. There is the Trump pro-abortion voter out there. Sure. And so that's going to be interesting to see. But the issue of women, I think, is going to be critical in this. And I think that in some ways the Trump campaign helps on Amendment 4 in the same way that you say Kamala Harris may hurt. I look at the RNC convention. We're going to have the DNC convention coming up. But when you look at the RNC convention, Dana White, who introduced Donald Trump, video of him slapping his wife, on down the line. I mean, J.D. Vance's comments on women. I think that it becomes an energizing factor for women, but we'll see. The marijuana amendment, let me start. What do you think? How is that? They've got, talk about money. There's no shortage of money by True Leave and the proponents of marijuana to be able to try to get that across the threshold.
Yeah, I'm more fascinated in the anti-campaign and DeSantis sort of aligning with the hemp industry, apparently. Is he going to go to a vape shop and a kratom bar to campaign against the recreational marijuana amendment? So I'm really curious how effective his campaign is against the amendment. But I think for most people in South Florida, I mean, my neighborhood smells like weed already because of the medicinal market. So, I mean, the idea that it's going to change, I think that's kind of already here.
We need to get you into a better neighborhood, it sounds like. Steve?
This is a test of Ron DeSantis' ability to use the bully pulpit. He has moved or is moving quickly into lame duck status, whether he's going to admit it or not. And so, but he appears to be poised to put a lot of money and resources into trying to kill both these amendments. I think the proponents of the abortion rights amendment are on the most solid ground if they frame this as politicians are trying to take away your rights. Because I think that argument resonates, especially in this state, because of all the stuff DeSantis has done, the don't say gay stuff, the banning of books and all that. They're trying to take away your rights. When you get into the weeds of viability and, at what point, an abortion should be permissible under Florida law, that's where the politics get a little bit more, complicated.
Yeah, I dismissively said earlier, and I shouldn't just be as dismissive, that of course Donald Trump is going to win Florida, but let's go back to that for a second. Does Harris at the top of the ticket change the dynamic, Steve, in your opinion, in Florida at all? Is this still a Donald Trump safe state? And I guess the surest sign of that is nobody's spending a lot of money in Florida.
Right. I would say today it makes the race closer and more interesting, but Trump still wins. The Republicans have this big numerical advantage in voter registration. The Democrats still have an issue with, the enthusiasm gap appears to be closing because there's such a fire and enthusiasm about Kamala Harris. And your last guest, Alex Rizzo, and you touched on something that I think is often overlooked, which is the importance of these no-party affiliation voters. They're a third of the electorate. They lean one way or the other on some issue. It might be the death penalty, it might be marijuana, it might be abortion, it could be taxes. But the party that energizes those voters is in a really good place.
David, pick up on any of that.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen enough information to suggest that Harris at the top of the ticket changes things for the presidential race in Florida, but it might change things for down ballot races or constitutional amendments. I know there were a number of Democratic congresspeople who were nervous about Joe Biden at the top of the ticket. They were going to have to spend a whole lot more money. Right. I mean, the story of the 2022 elections when DeSantis won Florida by 19 points and won Miami-Dade County, if you look at the numbers, it was more about, to me, the collapse of the Democratic Party than the surging of Republicans. And so can Kamala Harris bring back some of that enthusiasm that Joe Biden had clearly lost? I think probably there was nowhere to go but up, it seems. I'm waiting for the Harris-Walz head fake to Florida, because that has to come at some point. And I'm hoping, let them call me. I'll do an interview with either of them if they want to do a Florida head fake, try to get. But the map is totally different now. North Carolina, those Sun Belt states in play, going to be a fascinating November. We will keep talking. I want to thank you both for coming in. All right.
Thanks, Jim.
Well, when we come back, a quick look at weather, and we'll find out what the polls are, what the weather's going to be like on Tuesday. All right.